14, clear for counter traffic.
There we go. Yep.
So there. There's
traffic 578 Yankee, holding over the bottom POR at 55.
So you see how that immediately put her almost vertical?
Yes. All right, guys, I'm here today with Ryan from Texas Tailwheel, and we're going to learn why this right here will make you a much better pilot, or a real pilot. It makes you a real pilot. Is that what it is?
No, I think you're a real pilot if you fly any airplane.
Okay, well, good. That's not what they say on the internet.
All right, there's a couple schools have thought about this.
Okay.
But most of the time, I want you to just hold the yoke back like this. And then, of course, it's turn into or dive away from the wind.
Okay.
In this case, we're using the airflow to just hold the tail down.
Okay.
Bring it to the right a little bit.
All right, guys, so what you're watching here is me about to fly my first aircraft with a tail wheel. And why is that important? You probably think it's important because there's physics where the center of gravity is behind. It's important because I make fun of tailwheel pilots because there's this bravado. This kind of goes along with being a tailwheel pilot, especially on the internet where you're not a real pilot if you don't fly a tailwheel aircraft. And so I kind of mock and poke fun of that bravado sometimes because the tailwheel is something you only use on the ground. And why that's important is because this guy's about to get humbled. So I'm taxiing here. You can see Ryan and I are taxiing at Rockwell Airport, east of Dallas. I'm not doing too terrible, but I'm not doing great. And the problem is, in my airplane, I sit like this, so I can see over the nose, and I can see the center line, and I can stay on it. In tailwheel airplanes, you have a little bit of a pitch-up attitude even on the ground, and so you can't see over the nose. This one's not real bad, but it's different enough. I can see the center line maybe 50 to 100 yards out, because we're also on a hill. So I don't have anything in front of me saying, hey, this is straight. So I'm trying to use my peripheral vision as best I can to try to keep from going off either edge of the runway, but that's not very precise, and so I'm not doing terrible, but I'm not doing a great job.
All right, so try to keep an equidistant space between the taxiway over there and the taxiway over here.
I feel like the very first time I ever taxied an airplane and I was just doing what you described in the room, like that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm not doing too bad.
No, you're not.
Okay.
There's a little S in the taxiway here, so be mindful of that. Remember, we're going to use the tail low on takeoff, so I'm going to pretty much have the yoke neutral.
So the tail wheel's going to be on the ground until it's ready to fly on its own.
Absolutely.
And I assume it will kind of come up to a level attitude.
Yeah, you should feel it actually. If you're in tune with the airplane, you'll feel that vibration ending on the tail wheel.
Okay. So taxiing an airplane, which is about the easiest thing you can do in a plane, I'm not necessarily past that test with flying colors. I got it where I needed it to go. But now we're going to take off. I'm going to kind of follow Ryan on the rudder pedals. Rudder, it's all rudder. It's a huge deal, rudder usage in these tailwheel airplanes, because where the center of gravity is, the plane wants to spin around and go back first. I can explain it. It's very complicated. We'll maybe dive into a video some of the time. But so you're constantly kind of fighting, trying to keep the plane straight until it's off the ground. Once it's off the ground, it's a normal airplane. This one's a little different. We'll get into that. But let's take off, and I'm going to be following Ryan on the rudder pedal. And you can't see my feet. I only had 2 cameras for this, so you can't see what's going on. It's a whole lot of work. You're very, very busy until that plane is airborne.
All right, so we're going to accelerate to about 40. The tail should come up on its own. Then we're accelerating in ground effect to 75.
Okay.
All right, again, it's harder to see over the nose, so I'm just going to get it approximately in the middle.
Okay.
On the center line.
I'm just going to kind of follow you on the rudders. I'm not going to...
Mixture's coming rich. And here we go.
All right.
Got amount of traffic, jump plane to sending through 6,000 over the field.
All right, got birds. I'm watching for the birds.
Okay.
Keeping on the center line. And very minimal movement with my feet.
Airspeed's alive.
Airspeed's alive.
Okay, is that the tail coming up?
Yep, tail's coming up a little bit right there. Keeping her straight. A little bit of back pressure now. And she's off, and we're going to keep her in ground effect.
Okay.
Accelerating to 75. There we go. And we're just going to hold it right there.
All right, that was way more complicated. I'm just feeling your feet, and I'm like, we're going to learn a lot about what skills Brian hasn't developed.
So my brain, my eyes seeing the end of the runway, and my sense of even the slightest variation left or right, I just move my feet to match, just to keep the plane straight. And I think the biggest thing is getting to the point where you've flown enough tailwheel, which might be between 10 and 40 hours.
Sure.
Where you don't even have to think about it. Your brain is just saying left, right, and you just keep it straight.
Okay.
And a lot of that's just reps.
The trick with tailwheel planes is taking off and really landing. That's where you really, really, really have to be on your A game. But before we got to that, Ryan said, you know, before we do any of this, back to the basics, we need to make sure you know how to fly a plane, because if you can't fly it up here, you're not going to be able to fly it at almost stall speed in ground effect 2 feet above the runway, and that's where it matters. So Ryan went up and gave me this great lesson in adverse yaw, and I want to show that, and then I'm going to jump back in here and talk about spins.
All right, let's see the cut. That's a pipeline or whatever it is right away.
The big black thing?
Yeah, just punch straight ahead right there.
Okay.
Now we're going to do a demonstration of adverse yaw.
Okay.
Okay. So take your finger and put it on the horizon directly in front of you.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to hold the controls for a minute.
All right.
We're going to go sharp left and then sharp right. I want you to watch what your finger does.
Okay. You're gonna do it? Oh yeah, look at that.
You see how
big time?
So much adverse yaw this airplane has?
Yeah.
Now, what we want to do is we want to use coordinated rudder so that when we make a turn,
it just rolls right in. Look at that.
And then we just roll right out. So these older aircraft in particular that don't have the adverse yaw engineered out of them,
yeah,
it's real noticeable.
That's probably the most extreme example I've ever seen of that.
Now, so what happens is if you're getting close to the runway and you're trying to keep her straight, and we're just wallowing like this,
yeah,
it's going to be a lot harder for you to land well than if you're actually coordinated with a little bit of rudder here and there.
That makes sense.
I want you to try it. You've got the controls, you've got the rudders. Let's give it a little bit more RPM to maintain altitude and a little bit of trim.
Okay.
And go ahead and see if you can do that same maneuver.
We want to do with or without first?
Without first, just so you can feel how it feels in your seat of your pants.
Yeah, I can. Oh, yeah, of course.
Come back to the right. See how crazy
that is? The nose just swung like 30 degrees.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. Okay.
So that's one of the things I think most students aren't taught very well in their first 5 hours.
For sure.
And older aircraft like this will open your eyes to the aerodynamics of it.
Well, I don't know that anyone's ever demonstrated. I've seen it in videos, but I don't know that I've ever been in a plane and actually done this exercise. So let me try coordinated.
Okay, coordinated now. Left turn. And you don't want to use too much. You want to learn to just use enough rudder to keep it coordinated. And a lot of times you can feel it if you're paying attention to your seat.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on how much I give the ailerons too.
Yes.
So they're kind of tied together. So let me do it again.
Yep.
I felt like that was a B minus. All right, so get my finger on the horizon, level off. So I'm going to turn.
So the bigger the movement, the more rudder you need to keep it coordinated.
There we go. That's okay.
So see that?
Still a B minus, but I get it for sure.
So if we're down over the runway trying to keep it straight and you're doing these big movements,
yeah,
you're sloshing that longitudinal axis left and right.
So I wish I had a forward-facing camera looking out the window so you could see exactly what we were seeing. In this particular airplane, a 1946 Cessna 120, like he said, the adverse yaw hadn't been engineered out of it like a lot of more modern airplanes. And so what happens is if you don't use your rudder, when you just bank the plane to the left, for example, the right aileron's going down, which creates drag and wants to turn the plane this way. It wants to pivot. Same thing over here, it wants to go that direction. So if you're not using rudder and you're turning this direction, the nose wants to go that way. If you're turning this direction, the nose wants to go this way. So what you do is you correct that by adding rudder. So if I turn left and it wants to go up this way, I add a little bit of left rudder to keep the plane going around the turn, what we call a coordinated turn.
Charlie, contact for 25.
This time I want you to pick your own reference points, and we'll do one steep turn left and one steep turn right. Okay. Any reference point you want, just make sure it's a good one.
Number 8 hotel.
I do 316.
Yep. Sure you got a good reference point. We'll do a 45-degree bank to the left. Maintain your altitude. Not bad. I know you're a commercial pilot. You know how to do this.
Canada traffic, Cherokee 55 Zulu is flying over midfield at 1,300 and inner left downwind.
A little bit more left rudder.
Full stop, course Canada.
All right, remember there'll be a lot of adverse yaw as you roll out here. Nice. Okay, one to the right.
All right.
And again, the whole point of this is just to make sure you got the feel of the airplane before we go landing.
4878 to maintain 3,000. Course Canada traffic, Cherokee 55 Zulu, center and left downwind, 14, full stop, course Canada.
Okay, you fly better than some pilots I fly with.
Okay, that's good to hear.
There's a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of talk about like AQP and all these things these days.
Yeah.
They poo-poo some of the basic maneuvers, but I'll tell you, if a pilot can hold their altitude and their bank and keep it coordinated in a steep turn, you can see a lot about whether their skills are good or not.
That was 4878.
That's my opinion.
Heading 240.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to demonstrate a power off stall.
Okay, you got the flight controls?
I'm going to power on stall because we'll get a little while altitude out of that.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to slow the plane down some. Car beats coming on.
Julius, left base 14, full stop.
And holding our altitude, getting her slow to about 75. And then we'll go ahead and start the stall. Power on, slowly increasing our altitude. Pitch. A little bit of rudder. I'm not even looking at the ball. You could cover that up and I wouldn't know.
Okay.
A little bit of left rudder. There's the stall.
That was 4878.
And we'll go ahead and recover.
Traffic, Cherokee 55 Julius, left base, final one.
You want to try that?
Yeah.
All right, the car beat's already on. Let's just slow it down a bit. Get her down to about 75 and then start pulling up. I want to see if you can keep it straight ahead on the stall.
Alpha, 10 nautical miles to the west and down for a full stop. And we'll be landing runway 14, crossing midfield at 2000.
All right, slowly increase the power as you increase the pitch. Don't look at the ball, just look outside.
Okay.
Feel your rear end. Keep pulling. Okay. All right.
Now we're going to talk about spins. So if you're not a pilot, you may go look up, Google something called the base to final spin. If you are a pilot, you're probably familiar with this, and you may even wonder, like, how does this possibly happen? Let's watch Ryan show me something that's, we're going to stall the airplane, and we're going to be uncoordinated. I just talked to you about adverse yaw and coordination. We're going to let the plane be uncoordinated, and what's going to happen is when it stalls, a wing's going to drop. Your natural reaction may be when the left wing drops to try to pick it up with the aileron. Let's watch what happens.
I'm going to show you something here. We're not going to do an intentional spin, but I wanted to show you one more thing that'll help with your understanding of this.
All right.
All right. So have you ever heard of a pro spin input?
Yes. That's when you the right wing drops, so you try to get it left aileron, and it exacerbates. Yes.
Yeah.
Took me a second to catch it. Yes.
So a lot of people, when they're, like, I think a lot of the reasons people die is because they're down low, they stall it. Airplane rolls one direction, they immediately go the opposite direction and just. So remember that adverse yaw we were showing? It's gonna make it way, way, way worse. I'm gonna do a power off stall here. And I'll just show you how it kind of starts, and then we'll be thinking about how the adverse yaw affected it. So I'm not going to be on the rudders. I'm going to let it drop whatever way it drops.
There we go. Yep.
So there.
Traffic, Yankee, holding over the bottom fuel at 55.
So you see how that immediately put her almost vertical?
Yes.
Okay.
What you saw in that video clip was the plane starts to stall, and the left wing drops, and Ryan simulates what probably a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction would be, oh, the left wing's dropping, I'm going to bring it back to the right, which actually makes the problem a whole lot worse. So if you're not a pilot, you might look up base to final spin. If you are a pilot, you're probably really familiar with this. This happens to people. It's pretty much unrecoverable, and it's almost always fatal. So what happens is you're low and slow because you're coming into land and you're making that base to final turn. And I don't know, get distracted, whatever causes you to decide that you need to pull up, you're turning, and now that wing drops, your reaction may be like, oh no, my left wing's dropping, I'm going to pull to the right. That's not the answer, and it's going to make the situation a whole lot worse. So the next thing that Ryan wanted to show me was a falling leaf stall. So we talk about the adverse yaw, we talk about the pro spin inputs. What he's going to do is show me now how we kind of keep this from happening. We're only going to use the rudder. We're going to put the plane in a high pitch attitude, and we're going to get the plane to stall. But instead of pushing the nose down and recovering, anytime a wing drops, we're going to try to lift it with the opposite rudder. It's called a falling leaf stall. The plane's not falling. It's really kind of mushing and doing this.
Now I'm going to show you one more maneuver. I want you to give me the controls, except you're going to keep your hands on your feet on the rudder.
Okay. All right, you got the flight controls on. Follow the rudder.
Car beat's coming on. Make sure it's rich. I'm going to turn left towards that water tower.
Okay.
Now what I want you to do is do your best to keep the plane's wings level by just using your feet as we kind of mush.
Okay.
This is going to be like a falling leaf maneuver.
Yep.
You've probably heard these before. You might have done them before.
I've done them. It's been years, though.
Good. But I just want you to get the idea that you want to use the rudder more. All right, so we're going to start mushing. Just keep it as coordinated as you can with the rudder.
North, airfield inbound.
And we'll lose about, maybe 500, 800 feet, and then we'll pull out of it.
So tell me if I'm thinking about this correctly or incorrectly. I'm trying to raise the wing with my rudder.
Making right turn.
Whatever wing is down, I'm trying to pick up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Traffic.
So if a wing drops, just opposite rudder, but not too much. All right, we're going to hold her in the falling leaf, probably in about this pitch attitude. Good. 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 Remember, don't go too excessive, otherwise you'll get it to a point you can't get it out. Okay, start coming neutral once you start feeling the change. Remember, what we were talking about when you're landing, you want to kind of come back to neutral as much as you can.
Yeah.
You kick it enough to stop it, then you bring it back to neutral.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is going to be the same kind of thing when we're landing.
When you're landing.
Yeah, kick it enough to keep it straight,
Oh,
neutralize it.
I got a little dancy.
Yeah. So you are using enough rudder to keep it straight, but you don't want to use too much or too long.
So it's just stop what's happening, and then go back to neutral. Okay, I got it.
Making sense?
Keep doing this from, okay, stop it from happening, back to neutral.
Traffic order 389, right, base, runway 1.
Stop it from happening, back to neutral.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have you do my next BFR. I'm serious, like this is the stuff pilots need to be doing, like half the BFRs are like, where do you want to go for food?
I try to make sure you get some value out of it.
This is really valuable stuff. Like I haven't done, I mean, I did the falling leaf stuff. It's been 11 years since I've done one. And of course, clearly I'm telling you I'm not going out and doing them on my own either.
Yeah.
So why did we just spend an hour doing air work just so that we can go land the plane? Why didn't we just start with landings? All that stuff we just did is going to come into play when we're coming in to land an aircraft, particularly tailwheel aircraft. So when you come in to land a plane, you're at a fairly high pitch attitude. We're doing 3-point landings and you're at close to a stall. So we need to remain coordinated and we need to make sure that we're on center line and we need to make sure that we're correcting with our rudder and our ailerons for any crosswind. So all these things, those little dance we're doing with our feet that you really can't see, comes into play when we're trying to get this plane on the ground. So the first thing we're going to do is Ryan is going to fly the plane and he's going to get really low over the runway and he's going to show me with using subtle combinations of aileron and rudder how without touching the ground, and I think it touches a little bit but that doesn't matter, he can slide the airplane over the runway and go back to center line and slide it to the other side of the runway, basically showing how with the rudder and the ailerons we can keep this plane at a fairly consistent altitude over the runway and go back and forth and show me how we need to be able to control this thing when we're coming in. This is really good for maintaining center line and understanding what you need to do to counteract crosswinds.
The walk on the track, the Apache 17 Papa, I'm moving on the northeast side of the lake at 3,000 over Lake Tailwheel.
Right, now I'm going to set up on the center line.
Okay.
And I'm going to probably touch down slightly. This is not as long of a runway. I'm going to have to be careful.
Okay.
All right, so center line, a little bit of aileron, a little bit of power here. Now I'm going to set her down. I'm going to lift her up. Okay, tap the brakes. Now I can slide to the left, keeping her straight, and straighten her out. I can slide to the right.
So you're uncoordinated, you're slipping.
Yeah. RP, power. Do you see how I had enough control to keep her straight but move left or right?
Yes, but I can't process the inputs as fast as you can, so I don't know how you did it.
Right, but in a crosswind, you're going to need to be able to have that much control in taildragger.
Okay.
Because you want to be able to say, okay, I'm going to hold the center line, I'm getting pushed like 5 miles an hour,
right.
So I have to add this much input in order to maintain the center line.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I try to teach, is you want to make sure you actually have the control to keep the plane where you want it to be.
Next, Ryan's going to demonstrate a landing for me, and I'm going to follow on the controls so I can get an idea of what he's doing with his rudder inputs. We're only doing 3-point landings today. He explained it to me. It makes a whole lot more sense because that's kind of what I'm used to. In my plane, I land in a flare attitude like this. They do 3-point landings, and they do what are called wheel landings, which is where you land on the mains and you just ride it out until the energy is dissipated and the tail comes down on its own. That's not what I'm used to doing. I'm used to doing this, so we're going to do 3-point landings. So the first landing Ryan's doing, and I'm following.
All right. I'm going to take the controls. You follow me on the controls. This is going to be a 3-point landing attempt. Power's coming back more. Clear to the right. Watching for the power parachute. He's 5 minutes out, he said. All right, so if I am high, I use a slip. I tend to be fairly conservative, and I like to be a little high, and then if I have to slip, I will. but I don't want to, I'm going to try to make these as consistent for you as possible, like a fairly,
Yeah. So far this feels normal.
Yeah, just a good approach. We're a little fast, so I'm going to go and slow down. It does look like 1-3 would be the better runway, but I've got a crosswind that actually doesn't hurt for you to see.
Okay.
Cherokee 354 to Whiskey, crosswind, red crosswind, 17 rumble.
All right, I'm slowing her down.
9, 2 miles to the northwest, we'll be crossing mid.
And you see I'm keeping that center line rock solid.
418, got it.
Okay, I'm looking for that 3-point attitude. I'm going to get it in ground effect, and then I'm just going to hold it. Keeping her straight. Now, I don't have to use much rudder yet. Got a little aileron into the wind, a little bit of rudder, a little bit of rudder, a little bit of rudder. Trying not to pilot induced oscillation it. And starting to use a little bit of brake. One of those brakes is grabbing just a little bit more than the other.
Okay.
And we've got her stopped on 3-point landing.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to spin it to the right, and we'll come back to the left. I'm going to have you taxi back to 1-3.
Okay.
So you can't see it. There's no camera down there showing my feet. And you're probably just thinking, you just landed a plane. Why is this so hard? There's so much going on down there because the center of gravity, where it's located in this plane, the back really does want to flip around, and you got to keep that from happening. That's a bad thing, so it's a lot of work. Now you're going to see me attempt to take this airplane off. What a humbling experience. I've taken planes off thousands of times. Never so difficult in my life has it been to stay on center line, and I didn't do a great job. I got the plane in the air. Once it's airborne, it's a plane. It's kind of fun and easy to fly. But the amount of work I'm doing, and your tendency is to over control. If you've ever been in a car and you slide on water or ice or something, you get that reaction where you want to go the other way. Well, you can't do that. You shouldn't do it in your car, and you shouldn't do it in a plane. Because if you're going to the left and you try to throw in some right rudder, now it's going to go to right. So what he had me do is just correct a little bit and go to neutral. Correct a little bit and go to neutral.
Okay, now this will be your first takeoff.
Oh boy.
Okay, so we're going to make sure that, roll forward just a little bit, make sure that the tail wheel's straight.
Okay.
Okay. It's going to be full throttle, and we're keeping her straight. Remember, we're going to keep her basically in this neutral attitude. Let's make sure that the trim is neutral. Trim is neutral. Okay, just,
all right.
So you see that tree? Can you see the tree over the nose?
I can, yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to just smoothly add power. I want you to keep the nose glued on that tree as we accelerate. Be ready to use a little bit of
Apache 17 Papa, 3.5 miles
rudder.
southeast, 3,900
right.
descending bound.
There you go. Okay. A little bit to the right. Back to the left.
All right.
A little bit of back pressure.
Okay.
A little bit of back pressure. Just hold her steady and accelerate to 75. Tap the brakes so we won't have the shaking.
Okay.
All right. Raise 75. The nose a little bit. Right there. Just hold that. Hold that pitch. All right. Full pressure, temperature, cylinders, all those look good. Climbing out. Let's get to about 18 to 19 or 800 to 900 feet. We'll make a left turn.
All right, so now the plane's airborne and we're just going to fly a pattern like normal. This is pretty typical how I'd fly a pattern. There's not much that's a whole lot different. Ryan's going to let me do a landing, and he's ready to take over when I screw this up. And the first landing, he got in on the rudder pedals with me pretty good because I was struggling and a little bit surprised at how much work that you're doing down there with your feet.
Okay, power's coming back more. Trim it up some. I'm going to bring the power back more. Okay, try to get lined up on the center line. Bring it to the right, and then we'll come left.
Okay.
I'll handle the throttle. You just worry about keeping her straight. Use the rudders and the ailerons correctly.
Okay.
All right, so line it up on the center line. Right now, I'm looking just past runway 18 as far as our aim point, and we're a little fast. So
that's what I'm saying.
Let's go ahead and hold this pitch for now. We're slowly slowing down. That'll work. Okay. Right now we're set up for maybe the 1,000 footers, just a little bit shy of that. Raise the nose a tiny bit more. Okay. Now hold that pitch right there for now. Hold that pitch. Don't pull. Don't pull. Now pull a little bit more. Now raise the nose and keep her straight. Pull. Hold it right there. Hold it. Hold it. Now keep her straight with the rudder. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left,
awesome.
right. Left, right, yoke back, keep her straight. Okay, keep her straight. I've got the plane.
All right, you got the plane.
My plane. Good job.
Definitely a lot of work. And I got the idea of what we're doing, but I'm certainly behind the plane, like I'm reacting.
So that's where your eyes and your feet have to get connected.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time and patience. All right, she's basically coordinated right there. You've got the plane again.
All right, I've got the airplane.
All right, keep her straight with your feet and your eyes. Use some power back. And we're just trying to get into that ground effect using our peripheral vision on the trees and the hangars, keeping her straight, looking. Okay. You're a little high still, let her come down. Let her come down. You're slowly raising the nose, raise the nose more. More, hold it. Okay, keep her straight. Right rudder, left rudder, right. Don't use more than you need. Okay, we'll let her come to a full stop. Catamount traffic 76369 is back taxiing 13 for a takeoff, Catamount.
That was awesome.
You did it.
I'm kind of proud of myself.
What do you think?
It was awesome.
So my opinion is that the reason tailwheel should be like, I think 5 hours of tailwheel should be part of the commercial pilot curriculum. And it's not because you need the tailwheel endorsement, it's not because it's cooler. What it would do is it just forces a level of precision that I think builds your ability to finally control an aircraft.
Yeah.
So we did 3 more landings. I did 3 of them on my own without Ryan having to take over, and also took off 3 times without him having to take over. I would classify them as kind of ugly. If you were on the ground watching me land, or if you were in a plane behind me on the ground waiting to take off, you'd be like, that guy's drunk. Because it felt like you definitely, I'm fighting it. You know, this is a very new experience to me. But I was able to do it, and I was pretty proud of myself for being able to get the plane on the ground. All right, so a couple of takeaways. Number one, there's a small chance I'm going to quit mocking tailwheel pilots for their bravado. The bravado thing's kind of weird. This is hard. This is way different than anything I've done, and I get it. In my plane, in most of the planes I've flown, I would say, you once the wheels are on the ground, the hardest part's over. But with the tailwheel plane, you're flying the plane still. You're flying it until it's back in the hangar. So that's what they say. That's the busiest, most difficult part of it. It doesn't stop just because the wheels have touched. In my plane, I can touch the ground and I can take out the flaps. The plane's down. You know, it's just now we're just driving. In this particular tailwheel plane, and I guess others, it's a whole lot more work. And until the plane stopped, you are working as hard as you have, probably more so than any other phase of the flight. So I get the tailwheel pilots, and it makes you a better pilot kind of thing. Much respect to you people who've chosen to do this as your primary source of transportation. Number 2 takeaway, this might have been not the best, but probably one of the more important flight lessons I've taken easily in the last 10 years. Most of us probably don't go out and do the stalls and the falling leaf stuff and all this different type of practice. Most of our flying is trying to get from point A to point B. This is how I want to do my flight reviews moving forward. I thought it was very humbling to get in a plane that was different than one I'm used to, and have to get back to basics and make sure I still know how to do the things that I was taught to do that I'm honestly not practicing enough. So I will definitely reach out to Ryan, not just for flight reviews, but periodically just to go out and refresh my skill set and make sure that I'm able to do the things I need to be doing. This is really, really important as a pilot, and this is a great way to keep the axe sharp, so to speak. So, hey, if you're in Texas or anywhere around Dallas and you want to get tailwheel training or have an amazing lesson with an amazing instructor, I'll put Ryan's info in the description. It's texastailwheel.com. You can reach out to him there. This was really, 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 like I said, probably one of the most important flying lessons I've had in a long time, and I'll keep using him. The other thing is I will, once I'm gainfully employed, go back and finish the tailwheel rating. That was a lot of fun. And as soon as I got home, I was like, man, I want to do that again. I want to finish it. It's not something I don't think I'd ever buy, like an older tailwheel type aircraft, but it's fun to do, and I think it's a cool skill set to have. So second takeaway. Takeaway number 3, spins kill people. And I've probably, as a pilot, thought to myself, well, how does this even happen? Like, how do you get yourself in that situation? And 12 or 13 years of flying, I've never accidentally stalled a plane. I certainly haven't spun a plane unintentionally. And this was pretty eye-opening. I can absolutely see how someone who is shocked, scared, or surprised suddenly, their knee-jerk reaction being, oh my gosh, we're falling to the right, I'm yanking this thing to the left. I absolutely can see how that happens. Keep your speed up, keep the nose down, make sure you don't get the plane into an attitude where your reflexes are going to get you killed. So it was very eye-opening to be put in a situation where my natural reaction would have been what he demonstrated, I think. I hope that my action is to push the yoke and slam the opposite rudder, but I 100% can see how when things suddenly go crazy, you see brown and turn that way. So again, that was just really, really eye-opening. That was my third takeaway. I can see how this absolutely can happen. So probably a good idea, and I will probably consider going and getting some spin training. It's not required of a pilot, or upset recovery training. We do a little bit of that in our commercial and our private. I think it's probably a really good idea to go out and get some of that, find out what you're going to do when you're surprised in an airplane type of training. So very eye-opening experience. I love the lesson. It was an important lesson. I think you guys should go out and do this if you're a pilot. If you're not a pilot, look up some of these things. It was very, very interesting. So that's it. Thanks for sticking around on what's probably going to be the longest video I've ever made. I really appreciate it. I know that means sitting through ads and a lot of other stuff. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you to the Patreons who've been supporting me and supporting the channel. Gold Seal, everybody. I appreciate you liking and sharing. You guys fly smart, and we'll catch you in the next one. Click this link to see the most recent video upload. Click this link to see a video that YouTube thinks you might like. Click this link to subscribe to my channel.